Today we take a look at the pre and post market maker techniques that may be costing you a lot of money. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. Wanted to also thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe. So one of the processes that we've been doing on this show is introducing ideas to help our viewers make more money. There's been an interesting sort of process that's been going on that we've seen with Tesla over the last, let's say, 2 months that seems to be accelerating as we head into the S&P process with earnings. And what that is that if you watch, you'll notice that the regular trading day runs from 9:30 to 4 p.m., which allows individuals and institutions, everyone, to buy and sell the stock of any company, including Tesla. There are certain companies, and it's like Shopify, that limit the number of hours they trade off hours, but nonetheless, this is a phenomenon. So what we wanted to kind of review is the fact that one of the strangest things that's been happening is with Tesla, we've seen a number of trading days where the apex of the value of the stock is sometime 1 or 2 hours prior or 1 or 2 hours after the market closes. And then for the rest of the day, the stock is downbound. I can seriously say that yesterday in particular was very, very interesting. Yesterday being Wednesday, the 15th of July, 2020. So in essence, the apex of the stock price is about $1,586, and it occurred approximately 7:30 in the morning. And then by the time we got to the open, the stock price actually had fallen, 30, 40 points, and then pretty much went a lot lower and back and forth all day long. The thing about it is if you had gotten a chance to trade in the pre-market, you likely would have made some good money if you were just trading the stock. And then you could have sold and then just watched the regular market go nowhere all day long. So we've actually seen this happening with a number of days of trading. And so my thought process was to sort of introduce this as a way to encourage people heading into earnings to try and get with your brokerage firm and get permission to trade in off after hours. Just like with the right to trade options, it requires you to get a special permission. And I believe that you can only trade stock in that period and not options. But this addresses some of the techniques that are used to make sure market makers make more money. For example, have you ever thought about the question of why is it that the earnings are always announced after the market is closed? And the answer, it allows market makers to make more money before the public gets access to those shares or ability to trade the news that might have occurred. So as we head into Tesla's earnings next week, you'll notice that the earnings will come out at 4:30, a half hour after the market closes. Then an hour and a half later at 6 p.m. is when you'll have the conference calls where the analysts have a chance to pose questions to Tesla about what's going on so that there would be more clarity. The key to it is that, if you've got more than, let's say, $500,000 in stock in Tesla, I encourage you to get permission to do after-hours trading, because it is my impression, and I've talked with some of my trading friends in our group, that what's actually happening is literally all the profits for the day are being divided up either after market until trading closes at 8 p.m. or before market, which starts at 4 a.m. and runs all the way until 9:30 when the market opens. And so I believe that it kind of sucks to be able to get into the market and you're missing perhaps 8 hours worth of trading activities, 8.5 hours of trading activities that you actually could have made some great money on. So I have a number of friends that are on our Patreon page as well as that watch our show that have made a lot of money owning Tesla shares or trading them. And I think that, by adding pre and post-market trading ability to your activities, I think you could add $100,000 or $200,000 to the profits you earn heading into earnings for Tesla currently. And then as you have news-related trading occurring in the future, this will just add, so it wouldn't be a shock over a year to see sort of a well-heeled trader or investor pick up another, $100,000 per earnings announcement related to the fact that after Tesla announces its earnings, theoretically you could buy shares in the aftermarket, hold them until open in the morning, and then sell, and or hold if you choose to. But the general point is that right now, without this trading ability, you're sort of held out of it. And what it looks like the market makers have decided to do as a new process is to simply sort of hide the profits for themselves overnight. And then once the regular trading day opens, sort of hand off losses to regular consumers, and then keep doing that cycle over and over again. So I kind of expect it to keep happening, and I actually am expecting to see some really new, innovative techniques designed to optimize the profitability for the market makers and do the opposite for regular consumers. So I actually think that this is a very worthwhile thing to sort of study and understand, and that way you can profit from it rather than sort of missing out on all these dollars because you're not in this space. So I haven't come with a catchy name, and we had the 3-day rule, for example, and we have the pins that we're expecting to happen on Fridays. I think this will be a Friday pin with a lot of folks having things options above 1,600 that'll go they'll expire worthless. So I think sub 1,500 is where we end up this week in terms of where the pinning should be. And I think it's unfortunate because I was hoping that we would see a nice push towards $2,000 a share this week, and we have not seen this occur, unfortunately. One other thing I wanted to cover today is that I got a notification from one of our Patreon supporters that Fremont had shut down, and it was highlighted after I posed that question to one of my trading buddies that it's routine for retooling to be done. So the facility actually had been shut down so they could retool it. I do think that there is a risk that as the coronavirus rages in California, even in Alameda County where Tesla's facility is located, that we run the risk of bouncing back into a lockdown situation there because of the number of people that have had issues with corona in the area. The answer I would give to that for now is that those numbers, if it did get shut down, really don't affect what's happening currently with Tesla, particularly going into the S&P process. So in theory, in the short term, there might be some blip down, but in theory, you have the stock unscathed because all the earnings numbers have been received. I do think it's potentially there for it to, suddenly affect things until people figure out what's going on here. But, I think that's sort of how that plays out. The other thing that I found interesting is that as soon as I heard the news that either there's a shutdown, and that shutdown could be in one hand a virus-related shutdown, and then I learned it's another, is that we're going to find out what the total production numbers were from Fremont and China, and Tesla is not going to separate the two, but we're deducing the fact that what will happen is you'll be able to imply what those numbers were between the two production facilities. And so I think that what we're going to see then is this sort of bifurcation where it shows the productive capacity already and increasing in China, and the fact that if Fremont shuts down for a while, the demand supply equation in China is such that they can fill the hole of Tesla production. And I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but there's a lurking issue, which is that if in fact Fremont was shut down and the extent of that shutdown was longer, because of how much productive capacity is being delivered in China, you could end up with China starting to export to other places the vehicles that were targeted towards domestic production. And it shouldn't occur because the side of the order book is so great in China, and they're continuing to lower costs while retaining their profit margins, so they'll be able to, take more share in China. But I don't think Tesla would have any choice but to start to ship to other parts of the world if, in fact, there was a COVID-related shutdown that was extended or extensive in the Fremont production facility. So it's a problem, but I think it's a problem if it shuts down. But I think what this quarter shows and the success Tesla had shows is that there's a great reason why they're open in China and doing well. And the size of the addition to their facilities there belies the argument that they said, which is all they're doing is doing sort of vertical local integration so they can bring as much production capacity under one roof as possible, minimizing costs related to movement of goods between locations, adding to the overall cost of the operation. So I guess stay tuned. The thought we had, or we were told, is that instead of seeing a huge facility in Shanghai, as we're seeing, Elon had pointed out they were planning on as many as 5 facilities in different parts of China so they could provide local manufacturing to all those regions. And given COVID, given a number of issues, it just looks like the decision has been made to sort of optimize there and ship by train or other techniques to move product around as needed to address demand needs across the country. My final note here on this whole China thing, without us doing another show, which we are planning to do on China and its numbers, is that it's a perfect blend for Tesla to be able to produce in China and deliver numbers like they are. I would say that we should expect the numbers to exceed by wide margins, because I just think the Chinese are focused, and if they're trying to get an initiative done, they're going to get it done. And Tesla seems to be the preferred provider. The one statistic that we've done on shows on China that I still am amazed by is that there's a used car facility in Beijing where they handle primarily only ICE vehicles and only Tesla in the electric vehicle space. The preserved value after 3 years for a Tesla is in excess of 60% versus 25% for competing products, and it reflects sort of this occurring. So I think it's really interesting when I hear people say, watch out for China and how it's going to handle Tesla, because it's one thing to watch out for how the Chinese government is handling Tesla. It's another thing to watch out for how Chinese consumers are handling Tesla, and that is they're treating it as a premium luxury brand, and they're getting preservation of value, all these different attributes of the company that are really impressive. So I got a note from one of our viewers who's from China regarding watch out for Nio and its ability to sort of be successful. And I find Nio and a couple of the Chinese companies very interesting because Nio is one of those companies that's sort of Chinese government funded. So when the company went public, everybody was excited about the stock, and then government policy changed, and that's why the stock price fell. So there seems to be a whole bunch of strange data coming out about how the Chinese government will handle Nio and other sort of large competitors that they want to help them be preserved in the marketplace. But many of them are receiving key subsidies at different points that allow them to stay in business. And I'm impressed by people who invest in the stock, because the challenge you face is, what if the government one day decides that, oh, we're not supporting the companies anymore, and all of a sudden the way in which they were staying in business becomes non-viable. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, but I think it's a very tough place to put your money because of the government unknown and the fact that Tesla has entered and is soon to enter the SUV space with the Model Y that comes directly at the Nio's sort of best-selling product. So we'll keep you posted on this, and we look forward to your input. Get out there and make sure you're authorized to trade in pre and post markets, because I think that probably a third of the profits made over the next week and around earnings is sort of carefully handed out between the market makers in this fashion. So we look forward to your comments. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, Lehitrot, Hebrew, Zdravstvuyte, hello in Russian, Ni hao ma, hello in Chinese, hey do, Swedish, goodbye, and do widzenia, and in Jamaica we say, enough respect, walk good man, have a great day, and bye for now.